Imagine if the Beatles never became famous, and Paul, John, George and Ringo ended up working regular jobs in Liverpool, England, while no doubt still playing music in clubs as long-time local celebrities. As far-fetched as that idea seems, it could have easily happened. In fact, it most likely would have happened if it weren't for a certain individual who unknowingly changed the course of rock history. His name was Ivan Vaughan. Vaughan was a childhood friend of 6-year-old John Lennon. He met Paul McCartney a few years later at age 11, at the Liverpool Institute High School for Boys in 1953. Ivan played stand-up washtub bass part-time for Lennon's newly formed band called the Quarrymen. He introduced John to Paul on July 6, 1957, when the Quarrymen were performing at a local community event. Lennon was impressed with McCartney's guitar playing, as well as his knowledge of popular songs. John asked Paul through Ivan to join the Quarrymen, and Paul accepted the offer. The rest is history, as they say. But what if that meeting of Lennon and McCartney never happened? The known rock music storyline would most certainly have been very different. A lot of popular bands such as Black Sabbath and Kiss would have never been formed, having been heavily influenced by the Beatles. Ozzy even stated that he decided to pursue a career in music after hearing She Loves You. Gene Simmons also said that watching the Beatles on The Ed Sullivan Show in 1964 inspired him to start a band that had the same success and energy, but with a more theatrical stage presence. Other bands that were heavily influenced by the Beatles include The Who, The Byrds, Nirvana, Oasis, U2, The Monkees, and the Beach Boys, especially frontman Brian Wilson. And in turn, how many bands have they inspired over the past several decades? The total number of bands and artists that the Beatles have influenced over the years may never be known. They have also had a big impact on fashion and culture throughout the world. The Beatles' concerts at large stadiums influenced the development of larger and more powerful amplification systems for future music performers, since their own sound equipment was inadequate for venues like Shea Stadium. So what if the Beatles had never existed? There may still have been a British invasion in the early 1960s, but of a more assorted kind. Maybe more blues-based music groups led by the Rolling Stones. I'm sure that there would have been many other bands and groups that would have filled in the musical void had the Beatles never prevailed. Whether or not the music would have been better or worse is a matter of speculation, but it most likely would have been different, considering Lennon and McCartney's unique songwriting style, as well as George's guitar playing and Ringo's drumming. But we don't have to worry about any of that because the Beatles ended up forming, thanks in part to Ivan Vaughan's decision to introduce two of his friends. There's no way he could have known the importance of that decision, which completely changed the course of music history. It's kind of disturbing that he could have simply forgotten to introduce John to Paul, had something more important crossed his mind that day. This is known as the butterfly effect, where a small and seemingly insignificant event triggers much larger actions throughout the world. Makes you think what small events that you've carried out in the past led to much larger outcomes. I hope you found this video thought-provoking and interesting. Thanks for watching.